And during that time, and unbeknownst to us, there was a serious water contamination issue that existed at Camp Lejeune that has later been proven to cause or potentially cause a number of different very serious health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So while the time I served at Camp Lejeune, during that time we lived in these primitive conditions, I drank the water, I ate food that was prepared with this water, I brushed my teeth with this water, I shaved with this water, I showered in this water. So I had a considerable amount of exposure to this contaminated water, as did all the other service members that deployed with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, that was unbeknownst at that time. Fast forward to 1996, where I was living and working in Jakarta, Indonesia, for an Indonesian commercial real estate developer. While there, I developed a severe pain in my right hip. After several months of experiencing this hip that resulted in me walking with a very pronounced limp, I flew to Singapore to seek medical treatment, or at least a medical examination to find out what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
While there, I was diagnosed with a serious malignancy that was not specifically diagnosed at that time, but was communicated by my doctors and by the medical team that it was a serious issue that was life-threatening, and they recommended immediate medical treatment. So within a few days, I immediately returned to the United States, to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I lived prior to going to Indonesia. Immediately upon arriving back in Winston-Salem, in fact within 24 hours, I had a doctor's appointment with an oncologist who immediately started a series of tests that included multiple bone marrow biopsies and other testing that they conducted. End result was that I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Following that diagnosis, they immediately put me on a treatment regimen that consisted of 8 protocols of chemotherapy, 8 different treatments of chemotherapy, followed by 25 doses of radiation. Following the radiation, I was declared to be in remission and cancer-free. However, I did insist with my oncologist at that time, I wanted one last scan performed so that we could use that as a marker for future examinations to compare against. Fortunately, or unfortunately, however you would look at it, I choose to look at it fortunately, the scan proved that the cancer had returned. And I say fortunate because had I not done that, I would have returned to Indonesia and succumbed to the cancer. But fortunately, we did do this scan. And when it was determined that the cancer had returned, the medical team, my chief oncologist, said that I needed to have a bone marrow transplant. So we immediately went into another protocol of even more toxic chemotherapy treatment to hold off, to stave the progression of cancer until I could get a bone marrow transplant. So we did 3 rounds of that level of treatment. And then I was admitted on December 31, 1996, into the bone marrow clinic at North Carolina Baptist Hospital located in Winston-Salem. At that time, I went through 1 week of very serious, very lethal chemotherapy drugs that led to my bone marrow transplant, which I had an autologous bone marrow transplant, meaning they used my own stem cells for my treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it was successful. because you fast forward to 22 years later, I'm sitting here being able to talk to you
Yes.
regarding this.